Howdy folks, Tex here. Welcome to Southern Belle Bigfoot. Let me introduce y'all to a great friend of mine, Selena.
Hey y'all, I'm Selena. I started this channel because I had my own encounter, and I know what it's like to be ridiculed and unable to share my experiences. I want to give everyone a safe haven to share their encounters with these magnificent beings. I love to hear yours as well. Please email them to me at cwlenagarrett@gmail.com. And if you'd like to support me in my journey to the truth, my Cash App is $Selena Bigfoot, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Hey.
Hi, Krista, my little lifesaver. Thank you so much.
No problem.
I'm so glad to see a familiar face. You know, when Tex is helping me fix my computer all the way from Texas to Alabama, I worry so much until I see him pop up. So you're standing in tonight, and thank you so much for that. It means a lot to me.
No problem. No
We
problem.
have an amazing guest, Krista. Amazing. Darrell Denton. And I have looked over his itinerary on his Facebook page, and I'm pretty impressed. And I can't wait to get him out here. What do you think?
Sounds like plan.
Okay. Come on out, Darrell.
All righty.
I'm so excited you're here. Thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Well, I just couldn't wait. And I was like, Lord, please don't let anything go wrong, because I'm really trying to impress people and show them that I have professionalism. And I'll be dead, Jim, if every time I try, something goes wrong.
Of course.
I'm going to keep going, though. I'm going to keep on going. Anyways. But Darrell, start out telling me a little bit about how you got into this.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people out there have heard my stories. I've told them so many times over the years on podcasts and radio too. But, it all started for me in 1992 on my grandfather's farm. I was deer hunting there, and I've been hunting there all my life. I'd never seen anything that I didn't know what it was. But this big creature stepped out of a cane thicket and jumped across the creek and looked right at me and growled at me and showed me its teeth and growled at me again and went over and ripped the tree out of the limb that I had a scent rag in, and then it come back and stared at me again. I thought it was going to kill me, and probably the scariest I've ever been in my life, and I don't get scared real easy, but that was something I never planned on happening, but that's how I got started. So of course, it didn't kill me. I learned a lot over the years, and I found out that it probably just wanted to run me out of his territory. If it wanted to, it could have. So, but it scared me pretty bad. It made a huge yell down the hollow, and it echoed all the way down. And I ran all the way back to my grandfather's house, and I never went back in those woods again, and never have been back there since. And I didn't hunt or go in the woods for about 7 years after that. So that's how I got started.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing. That alone scares me to death thinking about it. I said it's one thing to see something extremely large the way that I did, knowing it's not supposed to exist. And I went into some kind of little shock or something. I didn't feel like they was hurting me. They just stood so still. But I said, it was one thing to see something that had, it was built like a human, in other words. But if I ever seen something step out in front of me with a dog face and ears and a big old, it would scare me to death. I'm telling you, it would just scare me.
Well, this wasn't a dog man; it was a Bigfoot. And
it was a Bigfoot. Okay.
Yeah, my grandfather referred to it as a woodburger, and that's what he called them, and he'd seen 4 of them in his lifetime. So
okay.
And since then, I found out there's a lot of different types of these creatures, and this was in Cannon County, Tennessee, about 90 miles from Nashville, on my grandfather's rural farm, and November the 6th of 92. And I was there with 3 of my buddies deer hunting, our annual opening day deer hunting with black powder rifles. And, it was definitely life-changing. It took a long time to get over that, really. I don't think I ever would have got over it if I hadn't had my second encounter on the Cumberland River in 99. But It was, you don't think those things exist. Not that I didn't believe they did, but I didn't think they'd be in Tennessee. I thought they was mainly out in the Pacific Northwest or British Columbia or somewhere, not around Tennessee. But now I found out they're a little bit everywhere. I mean, it would surprise you where these creatures are. And dogman too. I didn't know anything about a dogman really. I've never heard of one until my best friend Martin Groves told me about his encounter back in, I guess that was in 94, 95 when he and I would go to lunch together, and he didn't want to tell anybody because he didn't want people to think he was crazy. And of course, I couldn't tell anybody either. I didn't want people to think I was crazy.
Right.
So, whole different issue now because you got your groups, which and then you have your podcasts and radio shows, and you have conferences, and people get together and talk about this type of thing. You can feel kind of safe compared to what you could then.
That's what I said. That's what it was so nice to be able to tell somebody that seen something that I seen. It was nice.
So Daryl, how long did it take before you actually came out and told people about your encounter?
I don't think I told any. The only person that really knew about my encounter was Martin. Of course, I had my encounter 4 or 5 months before he had his, and his was a different creature, a dog man, but mine was a Bigfoot. And you have those people that you just trust. You just feel the trust, and you can tell them anything. They wouldn't say anything. And Martin was one of those guys, and we would go to lunch. He was actually at that time he was a deputy sheriff for the county that I was mayor in. And I was mayor in that county for a large number of years. I don't know the exact number. I can't remember, but 20-something years. But, Martin and I knew each other well, and we trusted each other. And there was a few other people that I confided in, but I didn't go into detail like I did with Martin. So as far as coming out with it and telling people, probably 2015 or 16 is when, my friend Michael Patterson and I started what I believe to be the first Bigfoot group ever on Facebook. And that was in either 15 or 16. Can't remember which year. But it was Blue Ridge, Bigfoot, and Crypto. And Michael and I started that. And a guy named Steve Dorsey, who's a good friend of mine still. And we had that for a long time. That group's still around. There's not very many members in it anymore. Most of those members came to my new group, and it's kind of died down a little bit. Michael's not as big into the group as he once was, but he's in my group also now too. But that's when I probably first told it, as far as not speaking, but actually typing it in where people could read about it on a page. But
well, Krista, I'm so sorry to interfere with you speaking, but it impressed me, Krista, that Daryl, an entire town, depended and trusted his judgment. So when something like this happens to someone that's been a mayor for 20-something years in a town, it had to make him so. I know it did you, Daryl, make you feel kind of like, should I tell anybody?
Well, I mean, it's. I guess I was. I'm trying to think. I guess I was I think I was probably a commissioner or an alderman at that time. My first elected term before I was mayor. When that happened, but yeah, I mean, you go around. People are so more open-minded now. It's really hard to explain, but it's just a big difference. Back in the 90s, if you were to, even my friends that I was hunting with, I mentioned to them, hey, after they got back, and I was terrified. I was in my grandfather's house 2 or 3 hours trying to calm down and looking out the windows and making sure this thing wasn't still coming. And, I went and asked them. They came back. I said, guys, of course, I knew Cody and Scott and Jason well. I'd been hunting with them up there for 5 or 6 years at that time, and we hunted other places when we weren't there. I said, have you guys ever seen anything up here? What are you talking about? They all called me Big D, and I said, something kind of like a creature, like a Bigfoot type thing. They all just kind of looked at me real funny, and one of them was skinning a deer out in a tree. They had come back and had it hanging in a tree. That was Jason, and no, Scott. And they looked at me real funny and said, Big D, you've been drinking too much last night. And I said, I didn't have anything to drink last night, but I know what I seen, and And they just kind of looked at me like they didn't know what to think. And I didn't say anything else about it. I just let it go. Just kind of held it in on myself. And, that was kind of difficult because it was, I actually had nightmares about that thing. And it was like a form of PTSD, I guess. I had that for 2 or 3 months. And, I don't get scared easy. I've been in those same woods and I've had bears come up to the tree and climb the tree up a little ways. And, I'm a little more, watching out and making sure that it don't come all the way up the tree, but I wasn't scared to death like I was of this thing. So, it's hard to understand, what people, when you first see one of these creatures, I don't care where you're at, but if you're in a tree stand, it makes a big difference because you're out in the woods in the middle of nowhere. There's nobody going to help you, and you better be figuring out what you're going to do.
Yes.
I had one shot with a 50 caliber muzzleloader, black powder rifle, and I debated on where to fire on this thing. I thought it was going to come across the creek, and pull me out of the trees. What I thought it was going to do, but I didn't fire up on it because realistically, I didn't think that one shot would have taken it down. So that's probably the only reason I didn't fire up on it, because I thought I'd probably just make it worse if I fired on it. But it didn't harm me, and like I said, I do know now that if it wanted to hurt me, it would have. So, because I've learned a lot about these creatures since that time. So,
well, that's what we're needing you to tell us, because mine happened 6 months ago, and I watch a lot of Krista, and her and Tex and Blinds and Booze, and I watched Miss Fee's show last night, which was really interesting. Just Cedar Creek Bottoms and World Bigfoot Central. I try to soak in all the information I can, Daryl. So here's what I'm asking you. Can you tell a woman who got blown out of her mind 6 months ago, August the 7th, early in the morning, a little after 7 a.m., delivering court documents? Can you make sense of what I seen? Tell me they didn't walk towards me at all. They didn't say a thing. I didn't hear any noises, didn't smell anything. My windows were up. August was hot in Alabama. So,
well, August is hot here in Tennessee also, but I know what you're saying about that. These creatures are super, super intelligent. I mean, people don't give them credit for the intelligence they have. I mean, there's so many people out there that realistically think these creatures are some kind of ape running around the woods, and this is not an ape. My 100% belief is they're an ancient type people. And they come from another world, at least part of them did. So they are elusive. They have special abilities. Now, have I ever seen one go interdimensional or cloak right in front of me? No, I have not. But I do believe they can. And I have seen them walk behind trees and never come out. I don't know where they went, but they just vanished, and there was nothing else but one tree in a field. So, they're super. I have no doubt that they can read a person.
Yes.
Somehow they know that you either have, they know that you have a goodness in you, not to harm them, or they know you have a badness in you and they don't like you. And they're just like people. There's good ones and bad ones. So I've run into some out in the woods by myself that I would probably be on their menu. I truly believe that some of those creatures would kill you and eat you. Other ones are not like that. They're friendly. The ones I ran into on the river were, they're the ones that make the large X's in the woods. The big tree together form the X's and put them on the path, and that's their marker. Those were super friendly. They were never aggressive toward me. They trusted me after a lot of time and a number of years, but it took a lot of time to work with them to gain their trust and for me to trust them too. But there's just a difference in these creatures. They're not all the same. And, that's the thing I tell people all the time. Don't go. I used to do it. I used to go in the woods by myself and stay 2 or 3 nights and days. But I wouldn't tell anybody to go in the woods by themselves anymore because you don't know what you're going to run into out there. Yeah. There's not just Bigfoot. I know for myself there's dog men. And just this last March in the LBL, I seen one of those crawler creatures that I'd never seen.
My Lord.
And that thing was pretty evil. It ran up a tree like a squirrel. It was so crazy how fast it ran up a tree. And, Martin Groves and Barton Emmy was with me. They seen the creature too. But, there's a lot of things out there that I believe will hurt you and harm you. And, there's some of these creatures that are just curious and they're elusive and they just like to watch you. Especially Bigfoot. They enjoy watching people. And they really like to watch children. So,
quick question, Daryl. You had told me a story one time about one of your encounters or something. You had one follow you back to your house.
oh, yeah, that was in 2000. Well, it actually happened in 2020. And my good friend, the late Scott Carpenter, he helped me rebuke those creatures. We had been researching for a couple of years in Cheatham County, Tennessee. Me and a guy named Billy Howell and Darrell Yarbrough. An area that a friend of ours had called us down, and he had some kind of creatures come to his house. His girlfriend was terrified. They'd come look in the window at 11, 12 o'clock at night, scare her to death. And so we went down and checked out the place, and it was a family of Bigfoot, and they were taking vegetables off the deck and looking in the window, and she was there by herself at night a lot of times because he drove a tractor trailer truck from Tennessee to New York and back. He was gone about 5 days a week for that trip up and back, and she was scared to death. Of course, you would be when you had a 8-foot hairy creature looking through the window at you, and you're out in the middle of nowhere. And we went down there, and we spent a lot of time down there. We got those creatures pretty well calmed down, and what Chris is actually talking about is we've seen a lot of those creatures down there. Mainly, I've seen the female and the juvenile. Billy, my partner, and Darrell seen the large male, which Billy says was 12 foot tall. I never seen him personally. I did see one of the large males crossing a road going into a thicket next to the river, but. These creatures, for some reason, these orbs started coming around all the time we were down there at night. And 2 weeks in a row, we had these orbs, and I got zapped for the first time down there in 2018. And then again in 2020, about a week before those orbs started coming all around us again. And I stopped going down there for a while. Decided to take a break from that because I told Billy, I said, it's kind of weird down there. I don't care to be around these orbs. We weren't seeing any Bigfoot. We were seeing orbs, and they were.
What, Daryl, can you tell the people watching what you mean by zapped? Can you explain that for us?
Well, the week before the week before the incident, we were in the woods in a gifting spot where we took food regularly every day or every other day. Billy would take it down a week, and then I would take it down a week every other day or so, and leave gifts for them, food and different things, and they responded by being more friendly toward the homeowner, and they weren't bothering her anymore. And we were going down there doing that regularly, and we would sit there in the woods in the night watching them come to the gifting spot. And normally it was a juvenile or the female would come out and get the food and run back into the woods. So this particular time, but we didn't see the Bigfoot that week, and we seen these two huge orbs about the size of beach balls come down through the trees, and they come all the way down. Well, right before that was the light bulb coming across the ground, and that's what I called it. I never seen anything like that. We watched a small, tiny, looked like a light bulb coming across the ground, about probably 150 yards from us. We could see it coming down a hill in the woods, and we watched it come all the way down. It looked just like a glowing light bulb going across the ground, and it went down in a ravine, then it came up out of the ravine, and we seen it coming again. Billy was to the left of me, and I was behind a tree on a hill. He was right down the side of the hill, and he had a large spotlight, and he had a weapon, and I had a weapon that I carried on my side, a 45, and this thing was coming right toward me. It just kept walking closer and closer, and it got maybe 2 foot from me behind this tree, and I pulled out my 45 thinking I didn't know what it was, and he hit the spotlight, and this light was super bright. It lit the whole woods up, and this thing turned into an opossum. This glowing ball turned into a possum, and It looked at me and opened its mouth and hissed and turned around and walked back the same way that the ball of light came from.
Oh my God.
And then within 20 minutes, he and I were both kind of weirded out. He was looking at me and I was looking at him, and I said, "What was that?" And we were thinking, should we stay any longer or get out of here? And then it wasn't just a matter of time. We seen these huge orbs, 2 big balls about the size of beach balls, come down through the trees, approximately 60, 70 feet from us. And they were right together, right next to each other, both the same size. They were hovering about a foot or 2 off the ground. And they were just sitting there pulsating. You could see pink, orange, and red inside of them.
Thank you so much for saying that. You have no idea what that meant to me that you just said orange. I seen.
Yeah, they were orange, pink, and red, and they sat there and pulsated. We watched them for probably 30 minutes or so, and I told him, I said, "Man, this is crazy. What are we doing here?" And I was ready to get out of there because it was kind of freaking me out a little bit. I didn't really know what was going on because we weren't seeing Bigfoot. We were seeing orbs, and and then we decided to go. We got about the time we were leaving there was when our horns on my truck, his truck, and David had just come home, the homeowner. We're probably, I don't know what we are, 100, 200 yards from the house, from the driveway we parked in. The alarms started going off on the trucks, and they were so loud you could hear them. And about that time, the lady that lived there called Billy on his cell phone, said, "These creatures are at the house. They're at the house." She was scared, and so we tried to get up and run, and I got zapped. I got hit pretty hard. I felt sick at my stomach, and my head was hurting, and my legs were real tame. I couldn't hardly run or get up. Billy didn't get hit like I did. He was already took off running back toward the house, and I finally kind of pulled myself together and got back there, and a little disoriented. But when I got back to my truck, I felt so sick. I just laid down in it and rested a while. These alarms went off for probably 45 minutes. We couldn't get them to cut off with a key or the fob. Normally you put your key in and turn the engine, the alarm would quit. It wouldn't do it. I had noticed my watch had quit at 12:48. My cell phone was dead. And my camera battery that I had was also drained. It had no power in it. So I don't know what caused it to do that, but some kind of frequency from those orbs or something, I still believe caused all that. And something zapped me in the woods and made me sick. And that was my first time that I was zapped down there. No, 2018 was my first time. This was 2020. And, we got back the next morning, and we tried to push those vehicles, all 3 of us, to try to get the alarms to go off. We could not get them to go off. I have no idea how all 3 of those alarms went off at the same time. But there was a massive handprint on the back of David, who lives there, his tailgate on his truck. There was a huge handprint. I've got a big hand, but it was twice the size of my hand. And I figured those Bigfoot must have shook those trucks somehow and caused the alarms to go off. But anyway, a week later, we went back. On Saturday, I was kind of, like I said, kind of weirded out about going back down there because we weren't seeing Bigfoot. Billy kept gifting them. It was his week to go down and gift them. And we went down that next Saturday night, and we had a ground blind, a little deer plastic ground blind, because it was raining that night. We got in that plastic blind. It was big enough for 2 people in there, and it had a window in the front. And we were just sitting there waiting for the Bigfoot to come in again. And all we seen was these orbs. There was 6 or 7 of them. They were white, by the size of a softball, and they were just going so fast in between the trees, just flying through the woods all around the trees and zipping by us, and just real fast. It was really strange. And I told him, I said, I about had enough of this. I didn't come down here for these orbs. This is 2 weeks in a row. I'm going to stay away from here for a while, and let's get out of here. So we both got up and left, and I didn't go down there it was a couple of weeks. And what Krista had mentioned, then all of a sudden I started having these creatures banging on the side of my house, you know, at 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, hitting my house so hard, it was just so loud. I can't even explain how loud it was. And I lived out in the country on a little farm, and you know, I don't have any house real close to me. I'm kind of back off 3,300 feet off the road back there. But these things were banging on the side of my house. I got out in the middle of the night, went out there with my rifle, and went around the side of the house where it was coming from. There was nothing there. Then they'd start on the other side of the house and go around. There was nothing there. Well, this went on for, I don't know, it went on for a couple of weeks, and it got worse and worse. And I was trying to figure out what to do about it. And they were tearing up stuff. They killed all the cats I had. I had a lot of cats in my barn, so they weren't actually my personal cats. They're just farm cats that come there, and they come on the porch of my house at night because I'd leave them food out and they'd eat. And these creatures killed all of them and scared my horses absolutely to death. They were so scared they wouldn't even go in the barn or the stable. And I had 2 in one field on one side and 2 in the other field on the other side. They were just terrified. They'd get right up under the street light I had in the corner of the driveway. And they'd stand right there inside the fence line because they didn't want to go in the dark. They would just, these creatures scared them to death.
Yeah, it's pitiful. It breaks my heart that an animal was that afraid of its life that it stayed right up, you know. That is so sad. And I'm sorry about all your cats and all that happened to your animals.
Well, it's just, you know, these weren't friendly creatures. I'm not 100% sure that that's where those creatures came. I didn't know how many I had anyway. First of all, I didn't know it was a Bigfoot at first.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what was doing it. But when I put stuff on the ground out there and around the side of the house, I seen tracks in it, and I knew what it was then. And they just got worse and worse. They tore my fence up. They did some damage to my pool house, tore a hole in it, bent the gate down. They were banging on the house. They were scaring the animals. It was pretty rough for 2 or 3. This went on for about 2.5 months, and I got to the point where I had people sitting in my driveway at night with guns in the truck. I had police officers that wasn't on duty drive the driveway and spotlight the house. And, you know, Martin Groves would come up there and check it at night when he was on. And even when he wasn't on, he was coming up there too. And as soon as they'd leave, it'd start. So, you know, it just went on long enough. And I was getting pretty nervous. I couldn't. It come down to one night where I just had enough of it. And I was sitting in my hallway inside my house with a 270 automatic and a 357 revolver. And I was ready to start shooting because these creatures they were trying to get in the door.
They were trying to get the door. That is my biggest fear.
They would come up on my wooden porch and just run up and down the porch and scare you to death. And you know, these were big creatures. And I know there was 2. There may have been 3, but I know for sure there was 2 because I fired at one that come through the back the couple of days before I was in the hallway trying to run it off. I wasn't trying to shoot it. I was just trying to scare it off. And then this particular night, I hadn't slept in nights. I had to sleep in the daytime, and thank God my kids weren't there. They were living with their mother. But they started banging on the house, and I just had enough of it. And I seen them jump up on the porch, and I had the porch lights on, but you could see them walk by the windows, 2 of them. And I heard this huge slam on the door, and I thought they were coming in. And I opened the door up real quick, and I had the gun pointed both of them, and they had threw a goat on my front door.
They threw.
I don't have any goats. My neighbors don't have any goats, but it was a dead goat on my headless dead goat on my front door.
Headless. Am I hearing this right, Chris? Did he say they threw a dead headless goat? Is that what he just said?
That's what he just said.
They threw a goat up on I thought it was them coming through the door. They threw a goat up on next to the door. I about tripped over it when I opened the door. And I was pretty mad at that time. I just had enough of it. I just walked out in the front of my house there and sat down, and I started screaming at him, "Come on, listen, either you or me. Let's get this over with. I'm tired of all this."
You was fed up, wasn't
I
you?
sat there with my guns all night long and waiting on them, and they never came. And morning came, and Scott Carpenter, the late great Scott Carpenter, he's
Yes.
passed
Yes.
now. Thought the world of that guy, and we lost the world of knowledge when we lost him. And I called Scott again. I said, "Scott, these things are not leaving me alone, and I don't really want to start shooting at them." And you know, he had told me the story a year or two before that he had problems at his house. So some of them, he called it the hitchhiker effect. They followed him home, and he said, "Well, here's what you need to do. You go all four corners of you." He said, "First of all, do you believe in Jesus Christ and you believe he's the Savior and all that?" And I said, "Sure, dude. I'm a Christian and I believe that." And he said, "Well, if you believe it in your heart, it'll work, but you have to go to all four corners of your property or as close as you can get to those four corners and say, 'I rebuke you in the name of Jesus Christ. Leave my property and my animals alone.' And they will leave your property and your animals alone. They won't come on it." And I said, you know, I was a little sketchy about this. I said, "Now, you know, you sure this will work?" He said, "It will work if you believe. It will work." He said, "Then go to all four corners inside your home and do the same thing." So I did it. And matter of fact, I did it twice on my property and twice in my house. And I sat in the hallway that night waiting for them to start banging on the doors again and starting all that again, and they never came back. So it's pretty amazing that worked, but it worked. And, you know, I've been around these dog men in the woods too, Martin Groves. You know, they know what Jesus Christ is, and Bigfoot knows what Jesus Christ is. So they seem to be very alert when you mention that name. So I don't know
Yes.
if they have a little fear toward them or what they have toward Jesus Christ or not, but they know what it is. And all I can say is it was unbelievable that that worked, but it did. And I'm glad it did. But
Daryl, can I ask you a question? When you said a while ago that, you know, how you was giving an example that now you know that not all of them are out to hurt you. Like there are some good and there are some bad. So
oh sure, yeah, the ones on the river that I spent from 99 to about 2004. I spent almost 4 years, a little over 4 years maybe. Can't remember exact how much time with those, and they were my friends, and I never had any problem with those creatures. They were never aggressive to me. They were friendly with me. And there was a large family of those creatures. I never seen the entire family. I basically seen 3 of those creatures on a regular basis. One on every time I went. Sometimes 2, and then other times 3. But that showed me themselves and didn't mind me seeing them. And they became my friends, and I learned quite a bit from them. They're a different type, and there's just some that don't want to harm you unless you harm them. If you're out to harm them or their family, they're just like we are. They're gonna fight back. So you can't blame them for that. But some of them are just aggressive, and you know, I think a lot of times I know for a fact that the ones that are like I had at my home, that for some reason came to my house. For some reason that may be the ones that were something to do with Ores in Cheatham County. I'm not sure how those creatures came to my house and started all that. I'd never had anything happen like that, but I had something to do with that area and those orbs. But those creatures, I believe, were probably loners or kicked out of the group, because I do think Bigfoot has a hierarchy. The adult elder makes a decision on who stays in the group and who don't, and they're pretty limited on what they have their own rules with their family too. They don't want humans harmed, and they try to get along with us. So
well, that's the whole question. I was going to ask you a while ago about the good and the bad. Have you heard of the ones that have actually literally saved people? Like when they're drowning, they'll get in there and pull them out, put them on the shore, and then walk away. Or the ones
I've heard those stories, and then if you go back to Mary Green, who wrote the Journal in Tennessee, it's probably the best book I've ever read about Bigfoot. Mary Green had lived with her family with those creatures for 30, 40 years and never had any problem with any of them. They were like a member of the family. So
34 years.
yeah, I don't know. I never had any of these creatures try to help me or save my life. So some of that stuff I'm sure is true. I don't think people just made it up, but I'm sure that probably happened. I think that some of those creatures have that type of heart that would be willing to help out a human. Yeah,
The one in particular that touched me was the man that was the logs had rode over on him. You've heard that story.
I've heard so many of those stories, and I don't doubt that they're not true. I'm sure they are. But like I say, these creatures aren't all bad. They're just like people. There's good people. There's bad people.
Yes.
So there's good and bad in everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it just depends on. It all depends on the person too. If you're in the woods looking to shoot one of them or out to harm one of them, they're not going to be friendly towards you. And they pick up that from you, and they know that you're not in there for a good reason. If you're just strolling through the woods, and it's very rare when you see one anyway, because they know you're there. They're so intelligent. I have no doubt when you get out of your vehicle, you're researching. They already know that you're there. They're not just standing there and you just have to walk by one of them. I think they allow you to see them if they want you to see them. And I also think that some people are marked or have a different something about them that these creatures seem to trust more or tolerate more. I don't know why that is, but I think I'm one of those people. But I don't know. But I wish I knew the answers to all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sitting here on that, and I'm not kidding. You'll see me lean. When I lean, I'm very interested. So I am so fascinated with all this, Daryl. So you said that you became really, really close to these things for a few years, and so tell me the interaction. Did you hear any vocalizations? Did they speak to you? Did they?
Oh, sure, man. We had a great relationship. They were my friends. I was down there every day or every other day for nearly 4 years or a little bit longer. And it's a long story how it started. I wasn't looking for any creatures. I was basically just fishing on the river, and something kept stealing my minnow bucket, and that's how I found out what it was. It was these creatures, and after it stole my minnow bucket for 2 weeks in a row, the third week I wasn't going to let it happen again. I tied a rope to my handle, and I tied it to a tree, and I found out what was stealing my minnow bucket. So I thought it was a person living down there or something in the river.
I'm sorry, that's comical.
Yeah, it is comical, and it's a very rural area. First of all, when you find a footprint in February in the cold weather, it was, 30 to 40 degrees and cold that day, and you find a footprint in the mud. You don't know very many people running around barefooted in February, March, and with snow and cold still on the ground. It's very unusual to find somebody with no shoes on that time of year. So, when I first seen the track, I said, "Oh no, I know what this is." And it wasn't a large track. It really wasn't. It was a juvenile. It wasn't I don't remember. I didn't ever measure it. I'm saying it was probably 8 or 10 inch track, but it was still very strange to see a barefoot track in that time of year on the river. Mm-hmm. This is a rural area. It's way back there, and it's on a game trail that's muddy, and it's muddy because so many deer are walking down it, and other creatures are traveling on it, and it's just muddy because it's been raining it in that time of year too, and we've had snow melt and everything else. And it was a footprint. So that's how it started with those creatures, and I was real nervous about going back, and but they got to be my friends, and I was carrying them gifts. Found out what they like to eat. I carried so many different types of food in there over a 2 or 3 year period, and I found out their favorite food is cantaloupe. They love cantaloupe.
I was supposed to ask you what's their favorite foods.
cantaloupe is their favorite. Well, it was this group anyway, and that would be their favorite fruit. Their favorite meat was definitely cooked bacon. I mean, how many of us don't like cooked bacon? But I mean,
That's right.
they love cooked bacon, and they love any kind of bread product. They love bread products. They don't want to throw it on the ground. It's not like feeding an animal at the zoo or some place you go. These creatures they want to eat on a plate. You put it on a plate, push it over next to the wood line, and they come out and get it. But they're like their other favorite food was jelly-filled donuts. They loved them. And
You can't blame them there. I'm sorry.
well, I don't personally care for them, but they did. And I tried about everything I could think of to see what they did like, and that's what they liked. So there was a ton of foods I took down there they wouldn't touch. So I guess the most surprising one to me was bananas. They would not eat a banana. So,
I've heard that before. So you're the second person that I've heard that from.
But anyway, I was just several things. And when I would go in, they got to know me because I was there every day or every other day, depending on my work schedule. But I would go in, it's, I don't know, 150 yards back there from where I parked my vehicle inside a gated fence, a gated area behind a water treatment or sewer plant, whatever it is. I'm not really sure what it is. But I'd park there and go through a gate, and I had permission because a friend of mine, his uncle or cousin worked there, and he let us go back there and fish. And nobody ever went back there because they couldn't go back there, and it's so rural anyway. You wouldn't even know how to get back there unless you knew where the area was. But when I would go in, when I'd go through the gate to walk down the game trail to go visit them every day, I'd say, "Hey, I'm here, I'm coming to see you." I would just talk normally as I was walking down the trail, and they'd get all excited. You could hear them. They'd start whooping and making noises, and there's a massive big thing of kudzu. If you know what kudzu is, it's like a real thick vine, and it grows on the riverbank, and it was real thick back in there, and you couldn't see all the creatures in there. You could hear them. There was more in there that I never seen. I've seen parts of a lot of them, but not the whole body. But these three, the one that I met first was the female, a young female. She was about 5.5 foot tall. She would lean over and look at me. And I caught her at a glance out of the corner of my eye because I didn't know what it was doing this at that time. And when I seen the creature, I thought, oh no, I don't want no more of these things. So, I left, and when I came back the next week with my shotgun and set it on the side of the tree, just those single shot 410. I thought, I'll just scare them with this thing, and if I have to use it, I will. But that was probably I carried that gun one more time down there. I never carried it another time because they were so friendly with me. And I actually gave them some whistles, a pack of plastic. I gave them all kinds of toys and gifts, and they made me things. They made me a half-gallon milk carton, paper cardboard milk carton that used to be red and white. It was kind of faded out where it had been in the river. Probably it was more pink and white, but they put sticks through all four sides of it that formed an X when they came out.
So
they were cool looking. That was their marker, the X. They left that for me in the gifting spot. I had a little box I'd made, and I put up in the forks of a tree that I leaned against, and I'd put the gifts up in that little box, and they would put my gifts up there. Sometimes they'd put them on the ground, the bottom of the tree, but a lot of times they'd put them in the box. But yeah, when I came in, after I'd left those whistles that time, they were just little plastic whistles with little elastic strings on them, like you give little kids at a birthday party. A little pack of them. I think there was 9 or 10 in the pack, and I'm just thinking of different things to take down there for them. And that one day, I hung them all over tree limbs and left, and the next day when I came in, they were blowing whistles. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. That's when I realized how intelligent they were. And, they heard my voice, and they started blowing those whistles. And you'd hear one to the left and one to the right, one way back in there, and you'd hear one across the river. They were blowing whistles everywhere. And then when I would get in there and sit down, they would quit blowing them, and they would come out. The female would come out and let me see her, and she sat, I don't know, not very far from me, and right at the edge of the kudzu, and she had another one her size that sat behind her. he was a male, and then there was a bigger one that accompanied them to, I guess, to watch them to make sure nothing happened to him. And he was about 7 foot tall. He was a male, and they were kind of scrunched down a little bit because that area you had to kind of crawl through that little game trail through there. So they weren't standing up all the time. Sometimes they would stand up, but you couldn't see the whole body on the bigger one, especially because it was so thick. But yeah, I got to talk. I asked them all kinds of questions over the years. I tried my best to communicate with them. They did know some of my native language that I asked them. They recognized that. I understood that they understood. They understand English. These did anyway. They understand English. They have their own language, and they do understand some Native American language. So the Native American people that I have I had in my family, that my distant relatives that are gone now, they call these creatures the Chayutanka. And I still call them the Chayutanka because that means large elder of the forest, the watcher. That's what that means in Lakota Sioux. And that's what they are. They're the keeper of the forest. And they've been around a long time. I don't know how long, but a long time, a lot longer than we have, I believe. And I asked them where they were from many a time. I tried to get them to talk with me. I told them over and over, my name is Daryl. Please tell me your name. And one day I was taking out a jelly-filled donut on a plate, putting it on a plate and pushing it over there. And I said, please tell me your name. Come on, I've been with you a while now. Tell me your name. And I hear, Aleatha.
Aleatha.
I said, what? I looked up real quick and I said, did you say that? You're Aleatha? And she goes, Aleatha. So her name was Aleatha. And then I asked the one behind her, I said, can you tell me your name? He wouldn't say anything or do anything. And then the bigger one behind her, I said, can you tell me your name? And he says, Tobias. That's the only 2 words I ever got out of him. I tried to get more and tried to get more, but that's what I got out of. Besides bye. When I would leave, I'd say bye, see y'all later, and I'd hear them everywhere in those thick kazoo. Bye, bye.
Oh, wow.
I love this. Thank you so much. This is awesome.
But I don't know. I think maybe if I'd have had more time with them, I camped out with those creatures. I stayed in there next to my tree in a sleeping bag with my little campfire. And they were in their little area. In the middle of the night, they'd come look over the kazoo to see if I was sleeping. And I could see them. But no, I never had any trouble out of them. They were my friends. And I did ask them where they come from many a time. I said, how'd you get here? Where you come from? I said, do you know who Jesus Christ is? They went.
Oh, they just shook their head. Okay.
I said, did you come? Are you from the heavens? They didn't answer. I said, are you from another world, another galaxy? They went.
Oh, wow.
I said, you're from another galaxy. You mean another planet, another galaxy? That was all I got. So they could talk more. Why they never talked to me more, I don't know why. I wish I would felt good to get 2 words out of them, Aleatha and Tobias.
And
I was just shocked to death that they could actually speak English. So, but that was besides bye, and every once in a while I'd say a word and they would mimic me from the word I would say, but that was it wasn't like a conversation I ever had with them. I wish I could have had a conversation with them. I think it was very possible if the more I was with these creatures, the more they trusted me. I took one of my friends back in there, Darrell. I'd never taken anybody back there. And I took him back there, and he knew about them. I've been telling him for quite a while. I didn't tell everybody about these creatures, but I told him about them, and he believed me, but he just didn't quite sink in on him that they were really there, if you know what I mean. It's kind of hard to explain what I'm saying, but I took him back. He says, I'll go with you. Let me check them out. I really want to see them. I said, okay. When you get back there, you got to be quiet and be still. Don't do anything to scare them. Just sit behind me and be quiet. Well, I took him back there, and he sat down behind me, and I was sitting on a 5-gallon bucket that I carried my fishing equipment in on, and I had it against, I left it there. It was against a tree, and I would sit on it, and my back was on the tree. He sat right next to me. When he seen that creature come out, when I said, I'm here, and they seen him, they were a little nervous because they didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
They didn't come out like they normally did. And, you know, when he seen one of them, he got so scared. And this is a guy I've known all my life. He doesn't scare over anything. He took off running and ran all the way back to my truck and got in it and locked the doors. So that was, I never took him back again. I did take my girlfriend back there, and it scared her to death too. So I never took anybody else back there. But, and I, you know, told them, please don't tell anybody because I don't want anything to happen to these creatures. And as far as I know, they never did. But I would have heard about it if they had or something like that going on. But that was pretty much, you know, I enjoyed them. They were my friends, and I'd probably still be going down there if they were around. I don't know what happened to those creatures. The situation happened to me is I got real busy, and I was always there every day or every other day. They knew I was coming, and I told them I would, and they were always waiting for me. But somehow I got real tied up for about 10 days, and I couldn't get down there, and I was worried the whole time. I was working a lot of hours, and I couldn't get down there, and I was worried the whole time I needed to get down there. I was afraid they was going to be upset at me. And it was almost 2 weeks that's the only time I was ever that long getting down there. It was always a day or every other day. And when I got down there to the spot, I pulled in, and I noticed it looked different. When I started walking down the game trail, they had brought bulldozers or backhoes in there and leveled that whole spot. The kazoo was gone. It's just a big, huge pile smoking where they were burning it with trees and stuff. They'd leveled the whole ground out right in that area. And they had stakes up in the ground like they were going to build something with little pink ribbons on them. And I was yelling for them. I just couldn't believe that they had, I don't know if they were going to build something back there. I guess that plan or whoever owned the property was building something there because that road went back to there. It was a dead-end dirt road. And I walked back in the woods. I yelled for them. Went back roughly 2 miles back behind where that was at through that thick stuff, and I never seen them or heard from them again. So I don't know if they exterminated them. The people went in there and maybe seen them and called the local authorities, and they shot them or captured them or whatever happened to them.
Hurting them. I can't stand the thought.
I even got a boat and went to the other side of the river a couple of weeks after that, walked the banks over there. I didn't see any tracks, yelled for them. And when they heard me yelling, they always yelled back. Yeah. They knew. They would make noises to let me know they were there. And I never seen them again. I don't know what happened to them.
Well, maybe they just moved on because they knew that they were coming to clear the land out. Let's just hope.
Nah. I don't believe that. I believe those creatures are smart enough that they would find you.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that makes
sense. I hope I'm wrong. I'd be happy to be wrong. But
yeah.
I really think something happened to them.
Okay. Oh, it breaks my heart. I watched a special on a fella that he actually felt bad after he got to thinking about it for a couple of years. It bothered him. He said he shot one, and he seen when he shot it, the dust and the blood, went out of his side. And a TV crew took him back up there and tried to get him to show where everything happened. And not the men in black, they come in uniforms this time and wanted the evidence of what he had done, and he had actually put some in his freezer. I've
heard of lots of stories about people shooting them, and to know this creature like I know it, it'd be very difficult to shoot it. Now, if they're trying to harm you, your family, I'm all for it. You got to do what you got to do, like the ones that attacked my house. But, that's so uncommon. I mean, I don't know why they attacked my house. I didn't do anything to those creatures. So, but I can tell you this much. The ones that were on the river, they were as good as any people I've ever known. They were never aggressive. They were very friendly. They really cared about me, and I could tell that, and I cared about them, and they really gained a lot of trust in me to allow me to see them that often and show themselves to me. And the same with me. I gained trust with them. So,
Well, I love the whistle story. You won my heart with the whistle story. I just, when you would tell me there's whistling all over the forest, I thought that was so cute when you arrived. So here goes the big question. I'm going to ask you this. I usually don't run over an hour because I know people's lives are ridiculously crazy and chaotic. So this is the big question, and I'm going to give Krista a chance to see what she wants to ask you last month. If the hunters that I talked to personally that says, it was, I remember specifically, I won't say a name. I was at a family get together and I was outside and it was Christmas. And I remember this happened in August. So this was December. And I couldn't help but look at the mountains while I was standing there talking to everybody. And I was looking at the mountains and they said, "Oh, what do you see? Another Bigfoot?" And these are the people that you love and trust and that thinks that you'll jump in front of the truck for them and you hope they jump in front of the truck.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I learned a long time ago, and I've been as straightforward and just the way I feel about it. I don't care what anybody thinks. I know what I've seen. I know what I've been around.
Right.
And if you don't like it and don't believe it, just help yourself. I don't need anybody to ridicule me or tell me what I have and hadn't done because I know what I've seen, and
Right.
I don't let it bother me. You don't need to let it bother you either. So, people joke around about stuff like that. I can take the joke. I'm good with that. But at the same time, for people to make fun of an issue of something that exists in the world that they're not capable of understanding, it's not my problem. It's theirs. So,
Thank you for that. That makes me feel so much better.
Yep.
Krista, I'm sorry to be talking so much. I'm just so
You're
excited.
good. You're good.
Or ask Daryl anything.
There are actually a few questions in chat. If you
sure, go ahead. Good.
Brett says, Daryl, are you sure they weren't trying to gift you back or maybe be recognized? Maybe. And that was when you had talked about the goat that was left on your porch.
No, I don't think those. I really don't know what those creatures were trying to do. For some reason, they were angry at me, and I don't know why they were angry at me. I've had gifts left from Bigfoot in different areas, and I don't call all these creatures Bigfoot. The ones on the river I call forest people, and I think there is a difference between. I believe I've seen 3 to 4 different type of Bigfoot type creatures. I don't think they're all the same. The ones on the river were the first one I seen was a wood booger, and I've never seen another one, and hope I never do. The ones on the river, the second ones that I seen were the forest people. They're just different than the other ones. The other ones I seen in Cheatham County, the ones I seen in the Blue Ridge Mountains, the one I seen in the LBL, the one I seen in Georgia, the ones I seen in Virginia, those were more like the Patterson Gremlin looking type. They look different. The ones that were terrorizing my house and banging on it and killing my animals and scaring my horses to death and trying to, for some reason, get me. I have no idea why they did that. I wish I knew because it still bothers me today because I never done anything to harm them or upset them. But I think when they throw a headless goat on your door, it's kind of a thing like they're not very happy with you. But if they left me a donut or a cake, I'd have probably said, okay, they left me a gift. But
I hear you. Okay, next question. Riley Ron says, do they talk like humans or mind speak?
I've never mind spoke with any of them. I've got close friends. Scott Pace is probably the best in the world at mind speaking, and I believe anything Scott tells me. He's just incredible. But I do think I've had them try to interact in my mind because I've felt that before. But no, I have not mind spoke with them. I tried to communicate with them with just my English language or a native language that I know partly. and I got 2 words out of those creatures, like I told you, except bye. I got that. So, and some other words they mimicked me by that I would say. They would try to mimic that word, but no, I don't. That's what I basically got. I wish I could tell you I got more, but I didn't.
That was a lot to me. I'm so amazed right now. So.
I'm still shocked they had names like that. So,
yes.
Well, shocking. But they did. That's what they told me. Tobias and Aleatha. So I don't know.
Wow. So Pyromedic asks, how big were the ones on the river and what would you say they weighed?
The ones on the river, there was a large family in there, and when the kazoo was so thick, I could hear other ones walking around in there, and I could see parts of them. Sometimes I'd see part of one's face looking through there, and it was a lot taller than the ones I was looking at. I don't know how big the bigger ones were in there. The only ones that I ever witnessed myself the full body of was the female, which she was about 5.5 foot tall when I first started going in there. She was probably closer to 6 foot when I didn't see them anymore. The one behind her, which was a male, was about the same size as her. He was a young male. And the one behind them that kind of watched over them, where I come up with these numbers at, I'll always look at a tree branch or something. They were standing up, and I would take a tape measure when I went in there, and they weren't out yet to measure the distance or the height. And that one was about 7'1" when he was standing completely up. So that what they weighed, the female might have weighed 200 or 300 pounds. The little male behind her, maybe about the same or a little more. The bigger one, he was probably 500 or 600 pounds because he was pretty good size, but he wasn't fully grown. I don't think he was. I think there was bigger ones in there.
Well, good deal.
Yeah.
And that was all the questions that I had. Oh, no, one more came up. Phyllis asked, so do you think they are like humans, good and bad?
Oh, no doubt. Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the biggest portion of them are just super intelligent, very elusive, and very curious.
Sure.
That's what I think.
Yep.
They like to watch people.
Yes.
They'll hide behind trees and watch us. They want to see what we're doing. How many times have we heard about them around graveyards? For some reason, they like to frequent graveyards and playgrounds.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
I don't know why it is. I understand the playgrounds because they like to watch kids play. They like to hear them and listen to them and that type of thing. Scott Carpenter said they were all around downtown Maryville and Knoxville parks. They were in the parks where people were actually there in the daytime. They were hiding in the bush watching people. They just like to watch them. So,
there was one reported watching a football game, leaning against the fence, watching a football game. And people didn't believe it. People just didn't believe it. They couldn't. And I think that's what happens is people just, until they go through it themselves, they're going to keep just saying, but I'm so glad you make me feel better. And so does Mark and Becca and Miss V and Blunts and Booze and Tex and the people that tells me, Selena, let what others are saying go.
Right.
If they are,
you got a lot of good people telling you the right thing there. You really just have to put yourself in a position where you don't really care what they think. That's what I do. I really don't. I don't care.
I'm trying to get there, but it's so hard.
Well, you get enough people around you that are supportive, and they've had sightings themselves and encounters or experiences, then you'll form yourself a base that makes you feel comfortable.
Yeah, and listen, I absolutely have met some of the most wonderful, awesome people. Absolutely. Since I came on here and told my story for the first time. And so I'm just telling you, I am so grateful that you came tonight, Daryl. And I know my setup wasn't so easy, but thank God Krista come in and saved me. She's filling in the text tonight. Krista, thank you, sweetheart. And Daryl, you're awesome. You're as awesome as
I don't know about that, but thank you for having me on. And Krista, I've been on her show before, and I've known Krista quite a long time. So
yeah,
we've
been to the LBL together. We go way back.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. That's good. All right, Daryl, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And
thank you. Like I said, I'm honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Oh yeah, before I go, can I plug myself?
Sure.
All right, I have my group, Bigfoot Believers and Other Creatures. We've got 60,000 members now. We're, I think, either the first or second largest private group in Facebook history.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because of all my people, not because of me.
Mm-hmm.
But and then Ron Moorhead, one of my other best friends, we are starting a podcast ourselves within the next 3 weeks. It'll be called Too Real. Too Real.
Oh, I'm gonna love that.
We'll be on a couple times a month, and I hope everybody will subscribe and try to watch us some.
I'll be the first one, probably. Because I'm just fascinated with Ron Moorhead, M.K. Davis. I just think all of y'all, I love your knowledge.
Well, they're going to be, I think I'm going to enjoy, I've got asked to speak at the Nebraska conference. First time I've ever been to Nebraska to speak. That's next month on the 25th and 26th. And M.K. Davis is going to be there. My other big hero, Coombo, Tim Coombo Baker, he's going to be there.
I've never met him.
Just some super speakers there for sure. So looking forward to meeting those guys.
Good deal. Real quick, Phyllis asked you, Daryl, are you going to be in Anniston for the Bigfoot conference?
I love Phyllis and John. They are really close friends to me and Rosie. Love those people to death. Last time I was there, I ate dinner with those two. So
they are awesome.
no, I won't be there because I wasn't invited to speak at Alabama this year. I actually, I think that same weekend, if I'm not wrong, I'll be speaking at the Gatlinburg conference.
Oh,
there's two Gatlinburg conferences, but I think Martin and I with Harley Owens are on the round table up there for that. So, but anyway, I'd like to come, and if I get invited again, I'll definitely come down, and we're going to hook up with you guys for sure, Phyllis, one way or the other, and Mark Green and his wife also. So we have to run into them.
Precious people. I just
great
love
people, and don't forget Roger down there is a good one too. I think the world of him, and Bama Murdoch, can't beat him.
I'm telling you, I just met some of the sweetest people. You all know I can't see well. You'll see me go like this and back up and back up. So I'm praying Krista's watching the chat for me because it's just.
I got you. I've been watching the whole time.
So, I don't know what's happened to my eyes. I don't know if it was working third shift for 32 years and not staying out in the light long. I don't know what all that's about. Anyway, or just old. That's probably what it is. But Daryl, Krista, thank y'all so much for tonight. It was so precious, and I appreciate you so much. And I love everybody in chat. You know, I can't say nothing you're saying, but you know I love you more than anything. Thank y'all.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.